Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of October 13th. Just a couple quick things to go over here. I was on the DNR news page seeing if I could find some stuff about the trout season, and I ran across this little press release here. DNR is hosting a Root River Steelhead facility open house. The Steelhead aren't running right now, but the salmon are. So they use this facility to collect salmon eggs, and they got windows where you can view the salmon swimming around in there. The salmon are up in the river. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, super cool event. If you got kids, it's cool to see these fish up close. They're going to be taking eggs from salmon and doing other demonstrations and stuff like that. So, it's going to be kind of a crappy day tomorrow. Maybe take the kids over to Racine and check this out. But like I said, the reason I was on the DNR site to begin with was I was looking for information about the trout season closer, which press release right here is reminding us that it closes on Sunday at midnight. So it's always a bummer when the trout season closes, but they got to protect the fish so they can spawn. Brown trout and brook trout spawn in the fall here, so it's good to protect them. And yeah, she'll open up again soon enough, the first Saturday of 2024. So for the catch and release season, and then May 4th for the regular season. But anyway, yeah, sad to see it go, but hopefully this rain doesn't mess things up too much and you can get out and do some trout fishing yet before she closes. A little bit of shop news. Beaver Dam tip-ups are in. I had a post about this over the weekend, last weekend. Obviously there's not ice yet, but people get excited about the new releases. They always have limited edition ones, including this one here is called Fire Tiger. It's like a tiger muskie, all colored up, and it's cool, super cool design on there. And then they got a camo one. So these are the two limited edition ones. Then they got all the standard ones. They sell two, so I got all those up on the shelves here, and yeah, come get them. Those I just sold two of them this morning, so yeah, get up here and check it out. Those limited edition ones won't last very long. I guess as far as the report goes, well, we had some cooler temps this week. It was in the 50s for the most part. Rain started to move in yesterday. Pretty nasty out there today. Windy, rainy, and cold. Tomorrow looks wet. Sunday doesn't look too bad, and it looks dry in the next week. And they're saying the same temps in kind of the mid 50s are going to stick around, which will continue to drop water temps across the chain. The Mendota buoy is still down, of course. It will be until spring. But another resource that records surface temp says Mendota's at 60 degrees this morning. Another one down here on Brittingham Bay on Lake Monona has it's a USGS unit that says the surface temp was at 54 degrees. So that's about a 7-degree drop from where we were at last week. So these cooler temps are definitely having an effect on temps. Weeds are becoming less of a problem around the chain as they continue to die back. Visibility can vary greatly depending on wind or where you're at, but I'd say overall water clarity is decent around the chain. For the most part, these cooler temps have fish moving into their fall patterns. Nice gills are still being found on weed lines and mid-lake humps on Mendota, but for the most part, the suspended gills we saw all summer on the rest of the chain have moved into shallow areas. Redworms and spikes continue to work well for the gills. Outside of tiny perch, the perch action remains basically non-existent on Mendota and elsewhere. Largemouth bass are being found shallow around the chain, and the smallmouth bass have really been snapping this last week. Walleye are being picked up on mid-lake humps, but with many of those fish are starting to move shallower and to weed edges, or sometimes right in the weeds, especially near shoreline breaks. Pike are plentiful and starting to bulk up for winter, and cooler water temps have the muskie on the prowl. And area streams and rivers are running low and clear all week, but we'll see what this rain does to things, with Sunday being the best day, last day of inland trout season. So hopefully the streams don't get blown out and we can close the season on a good note. All right, and we're back here. So yeah, I'll get into a little more detail up here. Up on Cherokee, still a weedy mess up there, but the weeds are slowly continuing to come down. It opens up more opportunities for shore anglers, especially with topwater frog, but that bite's going to be fleeting as those frogs start to hibernate. But if you can launch here at the School Road launch and get out into the channel on the Yahara River, you can get into some good bass and pike action out there. We got some good action still happening down here to the 113 bridge. Nice mixed bag this time of year, but catfish are definitely the star of the show. And folks that are catching cats down there seem to be using definitely more cut bait this time of year. Out on Mendota itself, we've I'm not even really going to talk about perch again until we get ice. It's really been a kind of a frustrating summer, but the gills are still keeping folks busy on the weed lines and mid-lake humps with a small jig and a spike or a redworm working best for those fish. I hear about the occasional crappie here and there, but those fish are scattered at best. Largemouth bass action remains good up shallow. Smallmouth bass action's been great this last week, especially for folks running minnows under a slip bobber. Walleye are still being picked up on mid-lake humps, but good numbers of fish are starting to show up on weed edges and right in the weeds near shoreline breaks. And I'm also hearing about some good action from shore anglers, mostly at night in areas like the University shoreline down here, Tenney Park breakwall, and the Warner breakwall have all been good. But those mid-lake humps, Dunn's Bar, Brearley, Second Point, all those have also been pretty picnic points, also a good option. Anywhere you can find a good break, you'll likely find some good walleye action in there. The Tenney, like I said, the breakwalls have been working well. Extra large fatheads and blacktail chubs are super hot right now, but shallow running jerk baits or a paddle tail on a jig are super effective this time of year. I'm also hearing about the occasional big catfish mixing things up for folks, both from shore and out to 20 feet of water. Otherwise, Tenney action over here below the locks has been pretty slow from what I hear, but I do hear about the occasional decent bluegill coming out of there or a walleye here and there. Maybe this rain might add some current, so some fish might push up there. I've heard about some good bass down the river here and also in the Tenney Park Lagoon. Down on Lake Monona, the gills that were suspended out on deep water are moving shallower, although I have heard about a few suspending fish, in particular down here near the rock pile, so that they've been in like 15 to 20 feet of water or like right on the deeper weed edge down in that area, and also the hump that's out here kind of in front of the terrace too. Has been producing some gills, but for the most part, your gills are all starting to move shallow. The gills are getting pretty thick over here in Monona Bay. I've been hearing about some good action for bluegills and even some crappies starting to move in there too. Good gill action up here at the Monona Terrace as well during the day, with some crappies showing up at night. A lot of small gills over here in Lake Wingra, but some good, better sized gills that I've been hearing about below the spillway over here at the Wingra Dam. Otherwise, walleyes are also starting to show up near the Monona Terrace, so that action should improve all the way through November. It can get really great down there for the walleyes and the muskie bite. Muskie anglers generally are a pretty tight-lipped group, but I have heard through conversations about some nice fish coming out. Like I meant, Noah Humfeld was, like I mentioned last week, Noah Humfeld was in saying that shallow running lures over the top of submerged weeds is what he likes to do this time of year and has been having a lot of success with. I do have a lot of folks starting to run big muskie suckers under floats, and we'll be getting a fresh restock of those here. Oh gosh, later this morning, 11:30. So hopefully have a bunch of those back in stock for you folks, because I know they've been super popular this time of year. Down on Upper Mud, on our way down to Wabisa, I've been hearing about some good action down there for bass and topwater frogs and stuff, but again, that's tapering off. The weeds are starting to come back quite a bit, actually, from what I hear, and folks are actually having some good panfish action up there, so might be worth a look heading up that way. Otherwise, down on Wabisa, kind of the same deal as Monona. All the fish that were suspended out here in the deep water have started to move in shallow. But I have also heard down here about some fish near mid-lake humps, so down near Christie's and the Goodland area, there's a rock pile down here. And, any other like mid-lake humps that you can find, maybe in that 15 to 20 feet of water area, you're probably going to find some gills. But for the most part, a lot of those fish have moved in shallow. Also getting some muskies down here. Heard about some walleye action picking up, it sounds like, a little bit in the Babcock Park area down to Bible Camp over here. But, down on Keeganza, I don't hear much out of Keeganza. I don't get a ton of folks in the shop, being so far away. But, I'd imagine just like the other lakes or fish on the other lakes in the chain, those fish are going to be moving into shallow weed lines. I have heard about a little bit of walleye action over here near the state park. And, Keegan's is a great bluegill lake. If you can get on them, it can be awesome. Down here to the Rock River. It's been a little quiet out of Koshkonong, but I know they are getting some nice fish up here near the mouth of the river. Some good walleye, bass up, walleye and white bass up there. Mostly smaller fish, but some decent fish mixed in. And up in the river down over there, the Indian Ford and Jefferson dams have been producing a good mixed bag of fish with some channel catfish showing up. Up north of here, we got Beaver Dam Lake. Where did Beaver Dam Lake go? Oh, there she is. Beaver Dam Lake's had a good eater catfish bite going on. Crystal Lake over here still has a ton of yellow bass in there. If you like yellow bass and you want to catch a ton of them, it's been a ton of them over there lately. I heard about the trout starting to pick up a little bit here at Devil's Lake. Once that water cools down some more, they're going to be up a little shallower and easier to access. Otherwise, fishing on the river remains great. The water has been low, but we'll see what this rain does, but it's been low, and of course that concentrates fish in deeper areas. Smallmouth fishing's been great up and down the river. The frog bite's going to die off here, but they're still chasing schools of shad around. So just look for a slightly bit of deeper water, and you'll likely find them busting those fish up on the surface. And any kind of shad imitation's been working really well, or anything really flashy that just looks like a minnow. It works great. Good mixed bag at the Prairie du Sac Dam. Walleye action on Lake Wisconsin, at least from what I hear, has been a little bit slower this week, but size is improving. It sounds like some decent panfish action for crappie and bluegill coming out of the, what do they call this? The Sunset Bay and Harmony Grove areas. So yeah, check those out if you're up that way. Petenwell, upriver. You haven't heard anything about from Portage to the Dells, and including the Dells Dam. I did see some boats up there last week driving through the Dells, but not sure what's going on. Been pretty quiet out of Castle Rock Lake, but Petenwell's been good. So I've been hearing about some good walleye up there, shallow. A lot of shallow fish, but even out to 28 feet of water, and a nice mixed bag of white bass and other stuff coming out of there. Over to the Mississippi River, got some good panfish in Pool 9 up here by La Crosse with perch on the weed lines. It sounds like some bluegills pretty much everywhere, and crappies in some deeper holes, walleyes and a good smallmouth bite, bass bite on wing dams. The Clements Barge folks down here in Genoa were reporting that some walleye and sauger have been starting to show up. So over on Milwaukee, or on the East Coast over here in Milwaukee and all the tribs over there, the big news is that the salmon are up. I mentioned that with the salmon demonstration they're going to be doing in Racine down here. But otherwise, salmon are pushing up all the rivers. Very exciting time of year. You can go out there, Milwaukee River, Root River, all the rivers, all the way up the East Coast over here. Should have kings in them right now. Right behind them will be the coho salmon, and with those cohos, browns and steelhead will start coming up. So yeah, super solid fishing over there through really the end of November, whenever the ice gets too nasty to fish. So stay posted here. I guess as far as things that work, spoons. A lot of folks use spoons and paddle tails or stuff like that, swim baits in both the harbors and up in the rivers. So that's always a good option. When I use my fly rod over there, and I like a cone head woolly bugger with like either an egg pattern behind it or like a leggy looking kind of a buggy nymph behind it too, works well for me. So it's a good time, and it's only going to get better. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about that. I have heard about a good white bass bite up here at Lake Winnebago in the Fox River, so go check that out. If you're into white bass and you want to take a trip, I hear they're in on the rivers up there. Otherwise, let's talk about fly fishing. Happy Fly Day. I want to cover what we were going to cover last week. I forgot to cover it. I had the October caddis lined up. This is a big caddis. You can see it compared here to a quarter. And it's a cool fly. They're kind of bright reddish looking, or rusty red anyway. And you'll see them popping off. They're a big fly. I think the biggest caddis that flies in Wisconsin. And they hatch in September. I haven't seen any personally this year, but they are out there. And you'll notice them when they come off, and so do the trout. Otherwise, the Happy Fly Day fly of the week we were going to talk about here is actually two flies is caddis and mayflies. So with this cooler temps, the hopper bite dies down. It's always sad to see that go, but I was out on Tuesday a little bit, and I had caddis coming off, these kind of tan caddis, and then tiny blue-winged olives. So this is a dime, so you can see these are size 18, and that's a pretty good size to be out there chasing what the trout are looking for when they're looking up. So yeah, these are two great flies, and give them a shot while the clock's ticking here on trout season. Like I said, hopefully the rain doesn't blow things out for us this weekend. But the cooler weather has got fish looking up at these bugs. If they're not looking up at bugs, there's always woolly buggers and nymphs. You can run those through runs if you're into the spinning gear. Tube jigs, panther martins, rapalas, as always, are fantastic this time of year, especially rapalas as those fish start to look for bigger meals to bulk up or getting ready to spawn here. But also, worms under a bobber, still super effective. And yeah, I guess that pretty much does it for the report. Sorry about being late here today. Post your comments and catches below. We love to see that. And yeah, good luck. Hopefully you get out and do some trout fishing, or get out there and do some fishing anyway, because ice is on its way, and that'll be a different time of year. And anyway, call the shop 241-4225 if you have any questions. And otherwise, yeah, good luck out there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.